Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and start. So hopefully everyone's watching the stream currently. Hi.
Does everyone know how to join the stream? If you don't know how to join the stream, we can explain that.
Okay, yeah, we have 11 in, and how many are in this channel? Like, about 15? Just guessing?
Yeah, if you don't know how to join, click on Connor's name in the presentation channel, and then click on, it's gonna pop up with a little window, and then you can click watch stream there. Alright, I'm gonna assume that's everyone.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this is the Introduction to Unity workshop. I'm Connor Walsh, the host. Okay, so first I'll start off with why would you use Unity? So Unity has many different kinds of applications. So obviously there's game development, considering it's a game engine, but it's also applicable to augmented reality, which is becoming more and more popular, especially with the new Apple devices and Microsoft devices. So that's going to be a very up-and-coming market. Architectural visualization. I have no experience with that, but it definitely is used for that. And then obviously animation and simulations with like physics and stuff. And there's many more, obviously. You can pretty much use it in any way. So there are just 3 things I want to cover before we actually jump into the engine. I feel like these are the necessities to know. So there's the hierarchy, the inspector, and just how scripting works in the engine. So I'll start with the hierarchy. The hierarchy is the interface where you can see all of the items currently inside a scene. So the way Unity works is a scene contains all of the information for, say, a level. So you would think of a scene as basically just a level. So inside a level, you'll have the camera, the lighting, and then just all the objects that are inside that level. So that's pretty basic. And then the inspector is, in essence, an object settings inside the current scene. So if you add a camera into the scene, where you would find its like subsettings about, say, like the FOV, or just any of its settings, you'll find that in the inspector. That's usually on the right side by default, so you'll see it when you click on something. And in the case of scripts, this is really important. So if inside a script you set a value to, say, 5, but then when you click on the item that the script is attached to and you see the value, it'll come up in like one of these, and any value that you put into the inspector overrides what's inside a script. So if you set it to 10, but in the script it says 5, it will use 10 at runtime. So that's very important to know. And then, so the entire engine is written in C++, but when you write in Unity, you use C#. So basically, I like to think of C# as Java, but even easier. And the default IDE that comes with it, or recommends to you, is Visual Studio, but I'll be using Visual Studio Code, but you can use any. So with that, I think we're ready. So I think I will show you this is what I have it looking like. I literally just have a tile palette. I was going to use these more textured things, but honestly I think they look like garbage. So I just made just very flat colored textures. So it's very basic. I have it set, let me go to the scene. So you'll see I have a main menu scene and a level scene, and that's all you need for this workshop. I made a super simple UI, so it'll tell you I accidentally set the fastest time to 0, but you'll see that there's a counter. It has physics built in. It's probably not tuned very well, but you can go in the water and such. So at the end, it should keep track of your fastest time. I just set this to be the end. So you'll see 14 seconds. I accidentally set 0 as the fastest time, but we'll see when I make a new one. So everyone can go ahead, if you're following along, you can go ahead and open up Unity Hub, and you just want to create a new project. Also, be sure you actually have the engine installed here. So you're going to create a new project. We're doing 2D today, so I'll call this the workshop. I can't spell. I'll just call it workshop. So you're just going to want to set it to 2D and then create it. So the only scripting that I had to do for this entire project is these 3 scripts. So I'm going to be rewriting them with you while I put this game together, but I'm just going to show them here. And also, if you don't feel like typing them all out, they're on the GitHub page, the IEEEs GitHub. So you can just go ahead and find those there. Once this is done, it should probably take some time. I'm going to look in the chat. So if you guys are following along, just let me know when everyone's set up. Okay. So when you start up, you'll have a sample scene with nothing in it. So the first thing I like to do is set up the folders. So we can just make a scripts folder. And then we can make a prefabs folder. I'll cover what prefabs are later. And I'll just call it sprites, or just assets or whatever we're going to do. So I'm going to go to here. Just going to drag in all of the pictures that I need into the sprites folder. Okay, just like that. And then what you're going to do is, if you don't have it open here already, this tile palette tab, you're just going to go to Window, and then it should be 2D tile palette. Just open it up right there. Is anyone that's actually following through with me on their own, is everyone up to this point?
I'm there.
Okay, cool. So then you're going to need to create a new tile palette. You can call it whatever you want. Just call it new palette. And it should create, you could just leave it wherever. And then, so all of these images are 32 by 32. So you're just going to go to, you're going to click on each image and set pixels per unit to just be 32. And then just press apply each time. That will keep them all scaled correctly. Okay. So then all you got to do is pick any one, just drag it into the tile palette, and then it'll create it as an asset folder, or as an asset file type, sorry. So there, now we have that. I'll do the water one. You can put them in literally wherever. It's just like a paint palette. It's aptly named.
Slow down a bit, Connor.
Okay.
Look at the chat. We're pretty far behind right now, it looks like.
Gotcha. Alright, I'll slow down. I should definitely keep the chat open on my second monitor. Okay. So let me know when everyone gets to this part, when they just have the images inside the tile palette. Oh, sure, here. So I just have prefabs, scenes, which I believe is default, and then scripts and sprites. Right now, the only thing we have touched so far is sprites, and that's just all the images.
Question, you said scenes are like levels, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you know anything about how like they actually store the levels? Like, is it a tree? Like, what kind of data structure do they use to store all of the stuff?
Well...
Like, it displays it as a tree, right?
Yeah, in the hierarchy. It would be a tree in the hierarchy.
Alright, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the scene would be at the top right here, and then everything underneath it.
What do you call what's actually in the scene? Are those the assets?
They're all known as game objects.
Objects, okay.
So I'll get into creating the objects in a second. I'm just trying to get the pictures in.
Okay.
Yeah, so just download the pictures from GitHub, and then I just have them stored here. And you can literally just click and drag the pictures into the sprites folder, or whatever you called it. So, is everyone up to this point now? Okay. Oh, 32 by 32. I'll type it too just in case. 32. There. And then I guess I'll repeat this part for people who are still importing. So if you don't have it open already, you'll go to Window, and then 2D, and then Tile Palette. And then you'll open up the Tile Palette, and then you'll create a new palette, and you can call it whatever you want, store it wherever you want. I kept mine in sprites. And then once you're done with that, just drag the images into the Tile Palette. And then you should be ready to go.
So what is the tile palette exactly?
You can think of it as a painter's palette. It is very simple. So I'll show you. This has nothing to do with the actual scene. We're going to go into here in a second, James, and we're going to make a tile map, which is literally just going to be a grid. And you're going to, it makes it very simple. You can literally pick up whichever one you want and draw it wherever you want. And it'll make the level.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. So it saves on a lot of time of actually, creating like entire objects in like Photoshop. You can literally just use a bunch of squares.
Right.
It's very simple for 2D games. Obviously for 3D, you're just going to be 3D modeling, which I do not have a degree in. Okay, is everyone up to this point? Am I free to start making the scene?
The fact that nobody has said anything in chat is rather concerning.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
Are you guys good?
Sorry, what's the nav? What are you... The nav... Oh, how to make the tile palette. So first you go Window at the top, if you're on Windows. Yeah, just drag the 4 pictures into the tile palette. So you go to Window, 2D, and then open up the tile palette, Window. And then just create new tile palette right here. No problem. Oh, I think I included, I said earlier, I think I included a bunch of these, textured ones that I made, but I think they're in the GitHub, but we're just going to use the flat ones, like the very standard ones, because I think, honestly, they look better. That's why they're all called, like, Dirt 2, because I made them afterwards and realized that they were better. Haha, yeah.
Looks like we got a decent amount of people
ready to roll? Alright.
Yeah.
So once you have the tile map open, or the tile palette set up, I just personally like to throw it over here, right? Just in the second window. Obviously you can bounce back and forth if you want, but this is just personal preference. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is go over here, and we're going to create a 2D object. We're going to create a tile map. Now, automatically, this should bring up just a grid, and this is exactly how we're going to begin. So, I think once everyone's set up with this, I'm going to explain how the layers work. In a 2D game, you use sorting layers to show what's going to render on top of what. So it's just obviously layers. So we're going to need to make 4, I think I made 4 of them. And also I should probably show you, click the layers tab at the top and then just click edit layers to get here. Okay, so whenever you're ready, I believe, we could start. I believe the first one goes, you can call that one ground, we'll call this one player, foreground, and background. I think these are the standard ones that you can make. So I'll just type it out in the Discord. Ground, foreground, background. Is the stream pixelated? That is not good.
Stream quality right now is pretty low. Is there a way to zoom in the Unity engine? The entire top of the screen is pretty badly pixelated.
So it's weird because like the thing he opens, like it's weird.
Here. Is it just the top? I actually have no idea how to... Maybe... Ooh, maybe we could do this. Here, let me change the stream window to the actual Unity engine. Now let me know how that looks. If I go like this.
Interesting.
That looks a lot better, but now it's just the window.
Yeah,
It's
so I
just the
can...
layer.
I'll change it
It's
back
the
once
layer
everyone's done typing this. So you can see at the sorting layers, you're just going to make it player, ground, foreground, and background. So once everyone's good with that, we can continue. I'm going to change the stream. Change the stream back to the screen. Okay. Alright. So, back in the hierarchy, I'll try to explain it as good as I can with words, so that way if the stream isn't working, you can still follow along. So, underneath the grid that was auto-created, inside that where the current tile map is, you're just going to make 2 more tile maps. So you're going to right-click it, click 2D object, and tile map, and then you can honestly just duplicate it. So you're going to have 3 tile maps. And then I'm going to name the first one tile map underscore ground. And then I'm trying not to move too fast, but this is a really important point. Every tile map that you name, match the sorting layer to the name. So tile map underscore ground, you're just going to make the sorting layer ground. Tile map underscore foreground, you're just going to make foreground. And the same with background. Okay. So how's everyone going on this? The grid, when you created the original tile map, right here, when you right-clicked here and created a tile map, it automatically creates a grid and puts it in it. Okay. How's everyone going so far? Okay. That's good. Alright, so this part is entirely up to you. You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to do, on the tile map ground, right? You can just go over to the tile palette and click this paint tool, right? Make sure it's highlighted, and it says active tile map. So this is the tile map that you're actually going to be putting the object on. So this is important because you're going to want to match it to what it actually should be. So this is the ground. This is going to be what the player walks on. So you can do something like this. Go like, I don't know, like that, and then click this one, and go like that. So now that's what the ground is going to look like. Alright, everyone follow me so far? Cool, cool, good to see. Alright, I think we can just do this for now. If you go to the tile map background, it looks like it's up top, but you're gonna have to drag it to the right, and then it'll open up here, like that, like to the put it next to the inspector, and it should open up to the right. And even if it doesn't, and it's just some bug, some unforeseen bug, you can just go to the tile map, select which one you want to paint, and then go to the scene and do it, and then go back. So whichever. Okay, now the important thing here is we're going to, assign the tile map ground, we're going to make it an actual object, because right now it's just being rendered. We have to give it a physics shape, right, so that the player can walk on it. So what we're going to do is click on tilemap_ground, and then inside the inspector, you're going to go add component, and you're first going to add a rigid body 2D. So what a rigid body 2D is it generates physics for the item. So I believe if I leave it at dynamic right now and I press play, it should fall. Yeah, see, so it falls. Because we just gave it physics, and it's obeying gravity. What we want to do is go over to the body type, and we want to set it to static. So it says, no physics for me, but I am an object. So now if we press play, look, we have a ground that isn't falling. It's a very important step. And then I believe the best way we can do this is Okay, so everyone's up to this point so far. I don't want to skip ahead too much. Just let me know in the chat if you're up to this point, please.
What other types of physics can we give to objects? Can we make it like Jello? Can we turn the ground to Jello?
I mean, yes, there are different physics materials that you can make by making a new physics material right here. There's a slot for it. We're going to be making one that later on that will make it so that the character doesn't stick to the wall if they try to wall jump and they just float in the air, because by default there's a ton of friction in this engine, so we're just going to make it 0 friction on the wall. And yeah, I mean, people have used Unity for physics simulations before. I personally haven't, but I know for a fact you can. Okay, so back to here. So once you have the rigid body set to static, we're going to make a tile map collider 2D. So you can just search for that down there, right? And just click it. So now these green lines that appeared here are the actual physics shape. So it'll know that, so if something is trying to make contact with it, it will stop here. Like, these are the shapes. But we can go one step further with this and make it one gigantic object instead of a bunch of squares. And I believe that this makes it easier at runtime on resources. So what we're going to do is, I believe if I just check used by composite, no, it doesn't make one. So we have to just go down here and type composite collider 2D. Okay. And then by default, once you have used by composite checked, it'll just create one giant outline for the entire thing. So now it's just one physics shape instead of a bunch of tiny ones that it has to manage. So is everyone up to this point with me? Thank you. I like to qualify it like that too. Okay. Then I believe we can just go to the background. I think I might have made one mistake. I think we don't need a foreground for a platformer style game. If you're making like a Zelda style game, like a 4-dimensional walking, you're gonna need a foreground to show the collision. But the background, we can just draw in like whatever we want. I made this blue texture. You can do whatever you want. So this is just gonna be like the sky. Oh, okay. So I made one more mistake. Promised, last one. The order here for the sorting layers, I think it's just reversed. I think you're just gonna have to reverse that. There we go. So it should go player, ground, foreground, background. Or actually the opposite. Background, foreground, ground, player from top to bottom. See, so now when we draw the background in, it's behind the foreground, which is, as Matthew said, poggers. So you can just draw that in however you want. Really, this whole part is up to you. Okay, so now when we press play, we have a decent looking scene, right? So I guess the next thing we can do at this point is to create a player, right? So I'm gonna save it. We're gonna go back here. Okay, everyone's up to this point with me?
type in the chat, guys, please.
Yeah.
We need to know.
Yeah, we gotta know. Okay, cool. Alright, so here is the fun part where we actually get to interact with the game. Okay, so right click in the hierarchy, any empty space, and you are going to click Create Empty, okay? So by default, this is just a game object, like any other. So, oh, I should explain the controls. You can use these up here, to go through them, but the hotkeys for them are, I believe, Q, W, E, R, T. So for W, that brings up these arrows where you can move it. And all that does is change the location up here. So I'm just going to set it there for now. I'll put it there so you can see it. Alright, so this is just an empty game object. All it is a location. It has nothing to it at all. So what we're going to do is change that, and we're going to make it something. So I'm just going to call this player, and it updates right there. Okay, now this is the important part. We are going to add a sprite renderer. Now what a sprite renderer does is render a sprite at the location of the transform. So wherever the game object is. So first, we're going to set the sorting layer to player, so it should be in the front. Oh, and by the way, you're just going to want to make sure that the Z is 0, or else it'll be technically behind all these objects, because I think if we just go here, we can turn it into 3D. You'll see how it actually looks. So if the Z were, like, negative, it would be back here, not being rendered. That's why you're just going to want to set it to 0. Okay. So, now that we're here, I believe the sprite that I imported... Uh-oh. Pictures. Ah, the rectangle. I forgot to import the rectangle. So I just made that this red rectangle will be the player. So the player, you can just drag the sprite right to the sprite renderer. So now we have that, and I believe that they should be set to 32 as well. There we go. So now, when you press play, look at that. You have a red rectangle that isn't moving and you can't control it. So let's change that. We'll go to the player, and then the first thing we're going to do is add another rigid body, 2D. And this one we're going to want to keep at dynamic. So now when it goes in, it should go. Now you see how it went through the floor. My objects are smaller than the boxes. That's because you didn't set... here, you see this red rectangle here? If I go here and in the source image, and I set this pixels per unit to be 1,000, and I get very tiny. You have to set it to the base image of what it actually is, 32 pixels. And you have to do that for all the images. How'd you sign? Okay, so back to the player. I made a sprite renderer, and all it does is render a single sprite. So what you can do is just drag this image straight on into the sprite renderer's sprite slot right here. And then it'll render it in its place. Okay? Cool. And then one more thing we're just going to do. This makes the game look a lot better at runtime. You're just going to change collision detection here to continuous. It just updates faster and makes it so that you don't clip through things as much. So, there. That's good. And then I'll give everyone like a couple seconds. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add a box collider 2D. Now, what this is a very basic physics shape. So if I click Edit Collider, you'll actually be able to see it. So all you got to do is just drag it to the dimensions of the actual cube. You can make it whatever you want, but I prefer to keep it, matching the actual image that we're using. And that is it. So now, if I'm not forgetting anything, I believe we have... Yep, there we go. Collision. Now, obviously we can't control it yet because we haven't done any scripting. So, I think it's time to get to that. So what we're going to do is go to the scripts folder. And let me just make sure. I called it player. Yeah. So you're going to right-click in the scripts folder. Click Create. and then you're going to click C# script. And then I just called it player. Now you'll see when you open a auto-generated script from Unity, it has two methods. Oh, drag it over there. So you're going to have a start and an update. And as it says in the code, in the comment, that start is called at the beginning, right as it is ran, or once you load that scene. An update is called every single frame, or every single tick. If you played a lot of multiplayer games, this would be where you would say it's 64 tick or 128 tick. Every update. Okay, so now what we need to do in the player, right? There are a bunch of... I think I should start off by explaining... I mean, you guys are all familiar with programming. So we're going to have a bunch of global variables at the top. And I'm trying to remember the exact order I did this. I'll just put them all there at once. So we're going to start with a text. And you don't have to worry if you don't understand this part right now. The global variables I'm just going to put in for now, but the rest I'll go through as we need them. And then we're going to put in a boolean, and we just call it win. Instead it's a false because you haven't won yet. And by the way, all of this code is on the GitHub, so you can look at it if I'm going slightly too fast. But feel free to say something in voice chat if going really too fast.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So the win state in the player and not in the scene?
Yeah, so you can just store your variables. I prefer to keep my player data inside the player. So I'll show you exactly why I'm going to do that, because we're going to use it as a trigger later on to let go. We're going to make it so that once you win, you can't move anymore.
Okay, that's clever.
Yeah. So I'll just, for the sake of time, actually no, I'll type it out. I'll make sure everyone's on the same page. Because if I just start...
Can you write... The other question I had was, can you write, like, can the scene have a script? Like,
yeah.
say you want, say
the
you want to have like an enemy spawn director that places enemies all around the scene randomly.
Yeah, so what you would do for that, right, is you would make an empty game object inside the scene wherever you want, and you would attach a script to it there, and it would handle it from there.
But you can't give a script to the main top-level scene object.
No, but when you have these very high-level methods like start and update, you don't really need to, because this will be called at start, and whatever you need to handle at the exact beginning in the scene, you can call from any script.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay, so then back to where here, I just have a fastest time variable, because later on I'm going to show you that we are going to have a sort of a high score but low score system. So obviously it's the fastest time, and we're going to save to our hard drive and load from our hard drive the fastest score. Or SSD, I hope. Okay, so we're going to make the fastest time and the current time, two variables, and we're just going to set that to 0. Then the move speed and jump speed. And that's it for global variables. Move speed. I set the move speed to 5 because I found that to be, you know, sufficient, but you can tweak it. And I'll actually show you how to tweak it later in the inspector. It's equal to 7. I just set it to 7 because I feel like I like jumping high in platformers, but you can set it to whatever. And just get rid of that comment. So now I'm going to show you one of the most important things in scripting with Unity. We are going to cache references for objects. Now Unity has this command, I guess not a command, but code you can use. So we're going to, if you recall earlier how we attached a box collider to our game object, right? What Unity has is a line you can do where you would say box collider 2D, and then I just called mine box, And then we're going to make one for the rigid body too. Rigid body 2D. I called it my rigid body. You can call it whatever you want. Now, at the beginning, right, Unity has no idea what to do with these, right? So we are not assigning them anything. We're not saying equals new box collider, right? We're just going to say that they exist right now. Then, this is the important part, in the start. So this is called at the beginning. Then we go box is equal to get component of type box collider 2D. Now, what this code right here is super important, and you use it in pretty much any Unity script. Anything that you attach here, all it does is it searches this game object for one of those types, and it says box collider is now equal to whatever box collider is attached to what this script is attached to. So then you do the same thing for the rigid body. You can go my rigid body is equal to get component of type rigid body 2D. And there we go. Everyone with me so far? Type in chat or in voice. I just need to know that I'm going at a good pace. Cool, cool. So we're all good there. So I guess I'll quickly explain to you what player prefs are. Unity has a system built into it where you can store simple data, say like a float or a int or anything, onto whatever the application is being run on's drive. And I believe it's written in the Unity's registry, if you go to your actual system registry, as just like small values. So what we're going to do is we are going to say the fastest time is equal to player prefs dot get float. So what this does is it goes to your registry wherever, and we're going to set it as fastest, if I could spell, fastest time, right? And then the second argument that goes into this is if there is no fastest time, set it to this. So I just set it to something extremely high, like 10,000 seconds, right? So it's saying if the user has played before and got a score, grab it, but if this is their first time playing, put 10,000 in this spot. Which is very basic. Okay, everyone understand that? Cool. And that is all we are actually going to call in this start script right here. So now we're going to move to update. And we are going to make two functions. So I'm first going to call them. Oh, run. And jump. Visual Studio Code is trying to autocorrect it, but that is not correct. So first we'll start by making public void run. Okay. And then once you have this function, this is where we're going to handle all the user input. So we are going to make a float. We can call this horizontal throw. This is just, I guess you would say very typical naming style for that. And then Unity has if you go in here, you don't have to, I'll just show you. But if you go to the project settings, it has input and input manager. And by default, there's a horizontal and vertical input. And they're already pre-bound to ADWS for, respective ones. So all we have to do in this code is say input dot get axis, and then you type in the name, which is horizontal. And that's it. So now this float is going to be between -1 and +1. And then what we're going to do is we are going to make a vector 2. We'll call it the player velocity. And we will set this to be equal to a new vector 2 and the first value, we'll say horizontal throw. times move speed. So now the x direction is going to be whatever this is times the speed that you're moving. So either -1 times 5 or +1 times 5 or anywhere in between. It gets, if you're using a controller and it's analog, it'll go, you know, in between. But if you're using A and D, it'll just be 1 or -1. And then we're just going to set the other one to the myRigidBody.velocity. Nope. Velocity.y. So basically we're saying anytime you can run, it's called, right? And then get whatever the user is inputting, and then add that. So set the x value to whatever the user is inputting times the speed, and then the y value as to whatever it was. So we don't care about y value at all in here. And then all you're going to do is set myRigidBody.velocity equal to player velocity, what you just made. And that's it. So if I'm just going to go through here really quick. Yeah. At this point in time, you're probably going to get an error. I forgot to show you at the top. All you got to do is just type using Unity engine.ui for that text to not throw you an error. And also I haven't made jump yet. I'll get to that in a sec. So that's not being called. There. So every time that you go to your text editor or IDE and you save the file, the next time you click the engine, it will compile and check. It will debug, and it'll let you know if you can play or not. So at this point, I believe we should hold on one second. I forgot to. If you just go to the script itself, you're just gonna drag the script onto the player in the add component section. And we'll set the move speed. The move speed is default 5 and 7. And now, at this point, it should be able to, you know, move. So this is what we have at this point. We have moving back and forth. Everyone at this point. Can get a 1G in the chat if everyone's doing good. The player part. So yeah, at the player, we have a sprite renderer up there. So as of now, all it is just the sprite. And we added a rigid body 2D and a box collider 2D, and then the script that we just wrote. This script so far. Okay, so, and it's very important to make sure that the script is actually attached to the player object, or else if I were to disable it, we would not be able to do any input. So you need to keep that enabled and on there. Okay. So now I guess I'll go into the jump. The jump is very simple. So I'll make a public void jump. Okay. So this first part, I'm going to try to explain to you really quick. So what we're going to do is this box collider, right? We don't want you to be able to constantly jump, right? Because if you are floating mid-air, we don't want you to be able to spam spacebar and just keep flying up. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a check every frame, and we're going to see if you're touching the ground first. Now this is why we made this layer, the ground. Actually, we made the sorting layer. I should show you. Next time you go back to the actual layers tab, you're going to want to, down here, you can do this wherever you want. You're going to want to make it the ground. And I believe, I'm trying to remember, it's either the players above or below. I think it would be below. Okay. So now all you have to do is go to ground, set the layer to ground, and the player's layer to player. And that's it. So now we're going to jump back into the script. And the line that we're going to write now is going to check if it's touching the ground every frame. So we're going to go if the box collider 2D dot is touching layers. Spelled layers wrong. And then we're going to give it a mask. So it's going to put a mask from this layer upwards and check. So it's going to go layer mask dot get mask. And then you're just going to type a string of ground. So this is saying if you are touching the layer, then you can jump. And then all we have to do is pretty much do the same thing we did up here. We're going to go if input dot get button down. This is saying if you press the button. And it's already predefined as jump inside the input manager, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just call it jump. And then we're pretty much going to just say we're going to make another vector 2. Jump velocity is equal to new vector 2. And the first one we will put 0f because we're not changing the x and we only want to change the y. And we're just going to add do jump speed, which is what we defined as a global variable up here. Okay, and then after that, all that's left is we're just going to go my rigid body. And this time, it's a little different. Up here, we set it equal to that vector 2 that we made. But down here, we want to add to it because we're trying to add to the jump. We're going to go jump velocity. There we go. One second. Let me reopen this. Equals jump velocity to add. Jump vector 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's my rigid body dot velocity. Always one word. Okay. Now, if you were to run the game, you press space. Oh wait, hold on one second. I think I might have been correct with that. Let me just figure this out correctly, and then I'll let you know. Oh, ground. Oh, obviously. Forgot to call jump. Oh, and I think I might have actually been correct before, so I'm probably going to have to change it back, so don't worry about that. Oh, no, that works. Added quite a lot of velocity. Okay. So just one more time, show you this works. You're going to set the player layer to be above the ground, and that's all that matters. You can do it anywhere you want in here. Everyone following along? I'll take that silence as a yes. Cool. Okay. So then I guess what we can do is add the timer. We can make that go. So inside update, inside the player, you could do it before or after. It really doesn't matter because it's called every frame, but I'll do it after. We just do if exclamation point win. So if you haven't won yet, the current time plus equals time dot delta time is a built-in Unity function that gets whatever the current time is since you played. So it basically tracks the time since last frame. So you're just going to keep adding on the time since last frame. So the reason you don't want to just do plus equals 1, right? If I were to get rid of this, it would work, but if you're playing on one computer and you're getting 1,000 frames per second, and if you're playing on another computer and you're getting 10, the 1,000 frames per second counter is going to count every single frame. What you want to do is get the actual time. This is the real time. So you're going to multiply that by 1. So you're just going to keep adding whatever the current time is. So I think I explained that decently well. If you don't understand, then I'll try my best to re-explain. So now the timer's actually going, but we don't have a way to display it. But so we're going to say, remember this text up here that we made at the beginning? We're going to say, I think I called it time text dot text. So this is going to get the text component from it, and we are going to set it to, I cast it to an int so it doesn't show a bunch of decimal places. It looks a lot better. Current time plus seconds. And there. So now I'm going to show you the actual UI portion. So now what we have is a scene, right? And then inside the player, if we go to the inspector, over here, it shows the time text that we created, and it says none, because we didn't give it a text. So what we have to do is go over here, right? We're going to right-click, and we are going to create, in the UI section, we're going to create a text. And now this is going to auto-generate a canvas. And what a canvas is in Unity, it renders a canvas over, it's basically an overlay of whatever's actually happening inside the game. So it renders it on top of the camera, not in the actual game world, unless you set it to world space. But we're going to keep it as an overlay. So then what we can do here is we can have this text that we created. It's going to be a lot bigger, so you're going to have to scroll out because the canvas, the way it works is it's way bigger than an actual tile map. So then we're just going to go up here. You can put this text wherever you want. You can set the paragraph alignment however you want. The font size really doesn't matter. And we're just going to make it, I'll leave the new text in there for 1 second. So if you go ahead and press T on it, oh, not in the text, in the world. If you press T, it's going to let you transform it, make it a lot bigger. So we're going to make it real big, and then we're going to go over here and set the font size to 36. So I think that's good. Okay? And then I guess we'll just set the color to white, but you can obviously leave that to whatever you want. And then we're going to just delete it because it doesn't need to have anything. Now, here's the important part. Alright, we're going to click the player, scroll all the way down to the script, and then where it says time text none, we're going to feed it a reference to what text we want it to mess with. So if we do that, and then we press play, we have a counter right here, and it's counting the time. Jumps really high. I think I'm going to set the jump speed to probably 4. That should be fine. So is everyone up to this point with me? Or if you're not doing it, understand where we're at?
Why are we multiplying the delta time by 1? Since multiplying anything times 1.
Yeah, I actually think that was a definitely unnecessary. I think I definitely did that because I've been doing a lot of in my other projects. I've been multiplying it by like 0.7 and stuff.
Right.
Try and do it with moving. So
I know.
yeah.
I've done some OpenGL game engines, and I do remember having to multiply the delta time for some reason.
Yeah,
I just can't remember what.
I believe it does work if you don't multiply it. Let me just make sure. Yeah, seems to be fine.
Very nice.
It's definitely just convention that I felt necessary, but definitely don't have to. Okay. So what we can start to do now is we can make a way to win the game, right? So now we have a timer. We have a timer counting. How are you going to, first of all, stop the timer? Second of all, check if it's the fastest time or not. And then if it is the fastest time, set it as the new fastest time. So the way we do that is I create a empty game object, and I'll just call this win object. Does not matter what you call it. And you're just gonna want to reset the transform to whatever whatever you want, honestly. And then you can put it wherever. Honestly, if you're better at level design than I am, you're not just making a flat surface, then feel free to put it wherever. And this is where I got a little lazy here. I'll just show you. We're going to add a sprite renderer. And I honestly just used the exact same red rectangle as the player. And then all I did was turn it sideways by rotating it. So now, almost there, right about there. So there. That is the win script, or the win object. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a script to it. Okay. And we are going to a new script. And you can call this one, I honestly just called it win script. And that'll auto-generate another sample class. Thank you for joining us. Have fun on your errand. Okay. And there. So now we have this script that's completely empty. And this is going to be a super short script. All we're going to do is add a box collider, 2D, call it box, and then a player, right? Public player. And what we're going to do in this script is first we are going to do, we're just going to make sure that the box collider is set. So we're going to get component of type box collider 2D. Okay. And then all we have to do is we don't even need an update in this one. We just have to do void on trigger enter 2D, and with the argument of collider 2D call for collider, you can call that whatever you want. We're just going to call player dot win, and that's it. So what on trigger enter 2D is a built-in method that you can call on a box collider. So then inside here we are going to add a box collider 2D. And you can edit this however you want, make it so it fits. Okay. And all you're gonna do is check, is trigger? Yes. So what a trigger is, as opposed to a collider, is a collider will prevent you from walking through it, and a trigger will let you walk through it. So we want you to be able to go through it, because this is like the end of the race. You're running through it. So then this entire script right here is now finished. All we need to do is call player.win. So we have to make a player.win. So if we bounce back into the player script, we can do public void win. And if I go over here, we need to set win is equal to true, a global variable win that we made earlier. It's now finally equal to true because we beat the game. And then, okay, so this part I'm going to have to explain, but for now I'm just going to type it. We're going to start coroutine. And we're going to call the coroutine win game, and then we're going to give it parentheses, and that's it. Okay, everyone follow me up to this part.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just in the interest of time, I'll keep going. So we're going to make an I enumerator. Now what you can think, I mean, it's in the name, it's a coroutine, so it runs alongside it. So what is important about an I enumerator, sorry, name it, is it has this feature where it's able to wait real time. So that's the only reason we're doing this inside an I enumerator instead of just a regular function. So what we're going to do is we're going to type yield return new wait 4 seconds, and then inside the parentheses type 3 seconds. There. So what this is just going to do is once this is called and this starts, it will actually wait 3 real seconds before moving on. And this just lets you, so it's not once you come in contact with this, it instantly scene transitions. It's just going to make it look much nicer. And then inside this IEnumerator, we're going to check. We're going to say if the fastest time is greater than the current time, we're going to say player prefs dot set float fastest time is now equal to current time. There. And then we just have to call player prefs dot save. And that's it. So it's going to, this is saying, if you beat the record, set your time as the new record. And that's it. And then what we're going to do after all of that is we're going to do scene manager, gotta spell manager correct, dot load scene. And I'm going to call this main menu. I think we mostly only did scripting, so all the scripts are on GitHub, so if you did miss anything, then you can just, copy them in. Okay, and then one more quick thing is at the top, all you gotta do is type using Unity Engine, and I believe it's scene management? Yes, Unity Engine dot scene management. There. And now, believe it or not, the entire player script is done. We finished that. Okay, so we should come in here. Okay, and there are no errors. So, now what we need to do is make a scene. We're going to go into the scenes folder. You can type, or right click, create, scene. Scene. There we go. And just call this main menu. Okay, then we're going to open it. We're going to save all of our current changes. Now we have an empty scene. I'll make this super quick. So what we're going to do is you're going to create a new UI button. So now you're going to scroll out and you'll see in your canvas that was auto-generated, you have a button. You can just put this wherever you want. Put it there. And then underneath the button is the text for the button. I'll just say start game. And then on the button has an on-click list. So what we can do is add something so that when you click the button, a certain code will be executed. Right now, we need to make the code. So first, I'm just going to drag this in there so all the scripts are together. And then inside the scripts folder, we're going to create a new C# script, and this is actually our last script, and it's just called main menu. Okay, you can go ahead and open this up in whatever IDE or text editor you're using. I think did it open? There we go. Okay. So, the main menu is also extremely short. What we're going to do is up top, all you gotta do is make one text. We're gonna say public text, text, and that's it. And then inside start, we're going to do float best time is equal to player prefs dot get float. And we're going to be basically grabbing the fastest time. Fastest time. Or if it doesn't exist, set it's 10,000. And we're going to display this on the home page, or on the main menu scene. So by doing this, we're going to do text dot text is equal to fastest, fastest time. We'll just concatenate this real quick. We'll call this best time, and then seconds there. And then we need one more function. You can get rid of update, and we're just going to do public void start game. And then all that's going to do is scene manager dot load scene. And I think in this build it was still called sample scene, so I won't change that. Sample, I should type it as a string, sample scene. There we go. Now you're done with all the scripting for this entire day. Oh, I lied. We need to import the UI using Unity Engine .ui and using Unity Engine .scene management. Okay, now you're done with scripting. So now all we have to do is set this script to something. I believe I set it to the canvas. We're going to create one more text, and we're going to drag this text up here. Can adjust the size however you see fit. I'll make it pretty big. I'll set the alignment to the center on both axes, and then the color to white. And the size, I guess I'll put 36. And you can get rid of the placeholder. Okay. So now we can attach here. On the canvas, we can attach the script that we made, the main menu script. You can honestly put it anywhere. Right here is fine. And then we have to drag this text here. So now it knows to update this text with this code because we've passed it a reference. So now that should be updated. And then the button, all we have to do is add an on-click event. So you go to the button, scroll all the way down to the button tab, and then on-click, click plus, and then we're going to feed it the canvas because this is what the script is attached to. And then go to the script main menu, and then the start game. And then I believe that's it for the main menu. Now if I start it, see there's no fastest time currently. So I start game, 0 seconds. And then I'll go at 7. There. Oh. Must be missing the collision. In the other scene, yeah, because we have to go back. But for now, this scene, the main menu should be finished. It's super basic. We'll do that for now. So back to the sample scene. We'll save that. Oh, yeah. So we have to go to the win object, and we forgot to feed it the player. All you have to do is just drag the player there. And now it should know. And you can start in either scene and it'll work in the main menu or here. So at 7 seconds, I'll hit it. And, oh, yeah. In the build setting, you have to add all the scenes that you're using. So I'll add the main menu there. There. Okay. But now that the build settings are correct, should work both ways. So if I start it, go here, hit that. So now it stops at 2 seconds, waits 3 seconds, and loads. So there must be something with the fastest time in the script. Get float. Did I set it correctly? I think I did. How's everyone going now? Are you up to this point at least?
Why don't we take a look at the pre-made scripts to see what's gone wrong.
I mean, I think it's pretty... So, in the main menu, if I copy the entire main menu, put this in here.
It's literally exactly the
Yeah.
same. So, what I'm curious is to see what went wrong.
Oh, I know exactly what it is. It's actually... It's there. If I scroll out, it is... The font is too big. And it's not fitting in here.
Oh, that's funny.
There. So now if I press play, there. It's just not casted to an int. I guess I can do that. There we go. There. Fastest time, 2 seconds.
Very nice.
There we go. So then I'll show you one more time as we go through. It should. Oh. Something with the build settings again. Oh, I know. It's because I copy and pasted the script in. The level name was the different one. Sample scene. I think that's it, right? Yeah, sample scene. Okay. This time for sure, I promise. Jumps really high, so it touched it. 3 seconds. Wasn't fast enough. And loops back. See, I didn't beat it. Okay. So there you have a very speedily put together basic 2D game. Does anyone have any questions?
So, can you go to the player script
Yeah, sure.
real quick? I just have a few questions about
Okay.
optimization. So, look down in the jump function.
Yeah.
So in the jump function, first so we're checking every single frame to see if the player is on the ground and pressing the button. Is there a way to create a callback instead so that it only triggers the jump function when the button is pressed, and that's where you check if you're on the ground? Because it seems like it's rather inefficient to check every single frame if the player is touching the ground and if the jump button is down, rather than having a callback.
The
Is
way
there
that
any way that Unity has button callbacks or anything?
I'm trying to think, because that would be more of an event-based system, which you're correct.
Right,
it is very inefficient to have to check every frame. But from my knowledge, that the way, because I feel like the only, if you're using the basic default input manager, I think this is the only way. But
Okay.
it's funny you say that. I believe Unity's updating their input manager. It says consider using the new input system package instead, because there's a new beta out. So I think there might be in that one, but this is the default currently built-in version.
All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, so I believe in the future the input system is going to be overhauled. Okay, any more questions? Anyone in the chat? All the code should be... I think I only put it on my GitHub, right? So I'll link mine. Right here. So there's all the code. Any more questions? Anything at all. You could ask me why I like Visual Studio Code more than Visual Studio.
Why do you like Visual Studio Code more than Visual Studio?
It's lightweight.
I do too.
It's lightweight as hell. It opens in milliseconds when Visual Studio takes 30 seconds to open each time.
Concurred. Is there any way to integrate Unity with Visual Studio Code?
Oh,
Is there, an
yeah,
extension?
yeah. I actually have mine by default. You don't even need an extension. What you do is it's somewhere, I believe, in preferences. External tools. Here, you set your external script editor to Visual Studio Code.
Oh, okay.
So that way, every time you open up any script from Unity, it'll launch in Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, okay. So you don't have to worry about getting a extension for Visual Studio Code.
No,
either.
no. I think I have one. I might still. It was kind of useless, so I didn't.
So is there any, my other question is there any way to integrate GitHub with, Unity?
There is, but what Unity has is their own thing called Collaborate, where you can just upload. It's basically the same. It's version control. But for actual GitHub, I believe there is. Not the background tasks. Not there. I've used Unity with GitHub and all. I just did it the regular way, through terminal, uploading through there. But I don't know if there's a plugin for it because I haven't used it.
Alright, I'll look into that.
I have actually used Collaborate a lot, and I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Alright, any more questions?
I saw multiple people typing in the chat right as I started my question.
And then it stopped.
So I know there's more people who have questions.
Don't be scared, ask questions.
I have a question.
Yep.
What was the start coroutine for?
Okay, yeah. So what start coroutine does is in Unity, there's they have this yield return wait for seconds, right? Which tells the engine to, it runs in parallel with the functions, so it calls it separately, and it will wait to execute this code. And the only way you can use that is inside a coroutine. So that's the only reason that I had to use it there.
How do we know it's a coroutine? I have no idea about any C# stuff. Is it just the I enumerator? Because when I look at that, I'm like, it's the return type, but it's not a return type. It specifies that it's a coroutine.
Yeah, there are different types of coroutines. Let me see. There are all these types: enumerable, enumerator. This is what a coroutine is in C#. From the experience I have, my only C# experience is with Unity, so I haven't tried to make any sort of, how they did with the model view controller at that previous workshop. I haven't done any of that. All the C# I know is Unity C#.
Very cool.
Okay. Any other questions? One last time. Alright, well, if no one else has any questions, then I think that's all I have for the presentation. So, we can let you... Oh, I believe, James, you have to announce the next week's workshop.
Next week, we are having not a resume workshop, we're having a coding interview practice workshop. The Unity workshop series will continue at some point when Connor feels like making a new workshop.
By the way, I hate to cut in, but I made this entire project in 2 hours last night. So.
We're not supposed to tell them that we did that still.
Yeah.
But, so next week we will be having Thursday night?
Yeah, I think we're doing alternating, right?
We will be having, yes, tonight's Wednesday, so that means next week we're going to be having our, interview prep workshop. And the way that's going to go, we're going to start off with a little presentation on how to prepare for a coding interview or technical interview, because I know we have a few electrical engineers. I'm going to ask Tony if he can do some electrical engineering. I think, is Tony ECE or UECE, Connor?
Tony? I actually have no idea.
Are you comp sci or ECE?
Me, I'm comp sci.
Okay. I think someone is ECE.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many ECE people we would get. I really should just figure out what major everyone is. So
we should do a poll.
We should do a poll, yeah. Because I wanna have it so then after we do the presentation on how to prep for a interview, a whiteboard interview, we then split up into little groups and do some one-on-one interviews with people, practice interviews, practice whiteboard interviews. So that should be that's next week's workshop. So we hope to see you at that. And
all right.
If no one has anything else, I would say workshop adjourned.
Yeah, I think we're all good. Thank you for coming. Thank you for working along with me. No problem.
All right. Well then, if that's everything,
thank you for coming.
discuss